I'm not trying to give you knowledge. I'm trying to maybe change your experience for a moment and maybe open up your perspective to something a little different or reconnect it. Now, big bold claim. Friedrich Nietzsche said that God was dead, or God is dead, a couple hundred years ago, and there's this whole like the Enlightenment killed our sense of God, our sense of Him, sort of, or something. And I'm going to kind of take like an astronomical approach to maybe opening up to something like that again in a more concrete way. And that maybe we'll kind of like, through science and rationality, pop out on the other side again, is kind of the direction we're taking here. So, see where that goes. So, Edward Abbey in a Desert Solitaire once wrote this phrase. It's there's a different world, older and greater and deeper by far than ours. A world which sustains the little world of man, like sea and sky sustain a ship. And the little world of man is like this is like the social world we inhabit, our cultural world, how we all interact with each other. We follow these patterns in it, and there's this greater reality that maybe last night me and some people walked out into the fort or into the clearing over there and looked at the stars, and for a moment you kind of like break into something a little more outside that. It's outside the boat. It's outside the little world of man. It's a sort of dive overboard into the sea and sky that surround the boat. And that's an idea to hold on to here. And actually, I'm not gonna do the microphone.
Yeah.
It feels a little more natural though. Sorry.
Yeah.
Woo! Be here. So when I was 16 years old, I had this like near-death experience, and it changed my perspective about a lot of things. And I didn't really understand it very well until a couple of years ago. I read this book, The Denial of Death, that really spoke to me. And there's one passage in it I wanted to read you guys. It really kind of hit at what hit me in the head. And here it is. It's most of us, by the time we leave childhood, have repressed our vision for the primary miraculousness of creation. We have closed it off, changed it, and no longer perceive the world as it is to raw experience. Sometimes we may recapture this world by remembering some striking childhood perceptions, how suffused they were in emotion and wonder. We change these heavily charged perceptions precisely because we need to move about the world with some kind of equanimity, some kind of strength and directness. We can't keep gaping with our hearts in our mouth. And the great boon of repression, that's the word, repression, is that it makes it possible to live decisively in an overwhelmingly miraculous world. A world so full of beauty, majesty, and terror that if animals like us perceived all, they would be naturally paralyzed to act. And that near-death experience thing I had happened, this like punched me in the face a couple of years ago, and I haven't been able to get it out of my head since. It's big for me. And the gist of that is that as we grow up, we repress our raw experience of reality, of the primary miraculousness of creation. And we do that so that we can function in this world, so that we can focus enough to read social cues and hold a job down, survive, and learn. But everything gets so, I mean, there's a function to that. It's useful, but we repress that. As children, we have this raw experience, this wonder, and we bury it. And I'm going to come back to that at the end, so I just want to make that nice and clear. So now I'd like to point to that primary miraculousness of creation kind of through space, and offer some cosmic perspective on it, and how absolutely mind-bogglingly crazy this situation we are currently in is. Okay, so billions of years ago, our mythos, and it seems to point this way through patterns, is that there was a big bang, and this big bang, everything's at one point, and everything is one, and it goes, and all this stuff, the universe supposedly comes out of it, and from that big bang, it's just very basic, elementary things. Elements come out of it. It's just like hydrogen, lithium, like the very beginning of the periodic table. Very simple things are spewed into the universe to create it, and then all that hot cosmic goop forms into stars, which burn for millions, or the first ones burn for millions of years, and in those stars, the very basic things, the hydrogen, the lithium, those basic elements, only in those stars, in the heart of a nuclear fusion reaction held together by gravity until it runs out of fuel and goes supernova and spreads again, that's where all the more complex elements come, like carbon and phosphorus, these other things. But basically, to get beyond the first couple parts of the periodic table, you have to cook these things in the hearts of stars to make them, and so everything, like, we're carbon-based creatures, and every life is carbon-based. Everything living here is carbon. Everything here is from this chain reaction of starting at oneness, growing out exploding out into stars, forming, cooking more complex elements, exploding again, and you can just, like, if you think about that in like a chain, it's like, and as over millions of years, and these stars are creating more and more complex structures of life that over time evolve into us. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Slow down a little bit. Yes. So yeah, this includes all when you go look at the stars, you go out and look at the stars tonight and think that all that's happening here was cooked into all this matter, everything you are, everything we are, was cooked into existence, and exploded and splayed out across the universe, and it cooled and mixed and remixed and everything, and it has evolved to this moment, into everything here, into you and me and all the trees, the ground, the rocks, everything you see is of that process, and from that process, it's what we are, which is cool. So yeah, we are. That's why everyone says we are stardust. Everything is stardust. That's what everything is. So if we dwell on this for a second, you could look at your hands. Look at your hands. Look someone next to you in the eyes. That's every bit of you, every bit of them has been just remixing endlessly over eons and eons of time. You guys have been entangled forever, and it's a crazy thing. It's like a cosmic recycling program. It just goes round and round. Things come together and they come apart, and this has been going on for billions and billions of years. It's kind of like throwing you could think of like the Big Bang, like dropping a stone into like a still pond, and like 13.8 billion years ago or something, someone took it, or this stone was dropped into the middle of the pond, and for 14 billion years these ripples have been traveling out, and we are the ripple. 14 billion years later, we've arrived at this moment. All this wave of energy, matter, chance, everything has been flowing out, and that's where we find ourselves now. It's a very exciting place to be. So yeah, when East meets West philosopher Alan Watts said that you are basically deep down, far in, simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. He was absolutely scientifically and spiritually correct in saying so. And I just wanted to throw one more quote in here from John Frusciante, the lead guitarist of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I love the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and John Frusciante. He has a video on YouTube called, if you just Google John Frusciante creativity, you find it. I've listened to the lecture like 10 times. It's so fucking brilliant. He just talks for 45 minutes. It's gorgeous. But in the beginning, he says this. He says, I think the force that created us is expressing itself through our existence. That everything we do and that everything we create is nature expressing itself in the same way that when a flower grows out of the ground or a tree grows out of the ground, that is also nature expressing itself. And I think that speaks to the living element of such a ripple. Discord. And so with this kind of picture in mind, we can sort of astronomically arrive at the same conclusions of prophets and great religious figures from across the ages, and most importantly, that we are all one. If all matter comes from this Big Bang, if all the carbon that composes life and all of us was cooked into existence in the nuclear heart of stars and exploded across space and the universe over time, playing out. When you zoom way out and take as an expansive perspective as humanly possible on this, it just seems very, very clear to me that all of this is one thing. And we're individuated in these different bodies for a bit, and then we die and we get remixed into something else and recycled and on again and again and again, and that's the cosmic recycling program. So we are. I think you can just arrive in a very logical way at the point that we are all expressions of the infinite, and we're all unique expressions of the infinite, and that we're also all one. So this is the scientific route to arriving at a sort of cosmic consciousness. But this phrase has been used before things like galaxies or the Big Bang came about. And there's an interesting story behind it, so I figured I'd share it. The term cosmic consciousness comes from a man named Edward Carpenter, who's a interesting dude, hung out with Walt Whitman and this other guy, Richard Maurice Burke, who wrote the book in 1901 entitled Cosmic Consciousness. Just to linger on for a second, Richard Maurice Burke was a badass. He grew up on a farm in Canada and left at 18 with nothing and a bag, and he just walked his way to Mexico working odd jobs, and it's the 1800s, so he's just cruising around with no idea what he's doing, and goes to Mexico, and then he's back in, I don't know, New Mexico or Colorado or something, and then hears about all this sort of thinking going on that's part of Edward Carpenter and Walt Whitman and these people of this age that's happening in San Francisco. So he just turns and heads straight for San Francisco from the middle of the country, and has to walk over the Sierra Nevada mountains in the 1800s with no maps or anything, and he loses one foot into frostbite and most of his toes on the other leg, and he gets to San Francisco and he's ecstatically happy and learns all learns German so he can read like Goth and its native tongue and stuff, and he's just like woo as he's like falling apart. It's a beautiful thing. So he wrote the book Cosmic Consciousness, and I'm reading it right now. Actually, I figured I should read it before I gave a talk. The same title as the book. I'm only halfway through, but I figured I'd give you.
Part one.
Yeah, maybe there will be subsequent realizations that I've not encountered yet. But I found me too. Yeah, me too. Yeah, so I'll give you guys I found there's one quote in it that spoke to what he was aiming at with it, because this is a time before big bangs and stuff like that, but it kind of sounds like the same place to me. Here's what he wrote. He does not come to believe merely, but he sees and knows that the cosmos, which to the self-conscious mind seems made up of dead matter, is in fact far otherwise, is in fact in very truth a living presence. He sees that men being, as it were, patches of life scattered through an infinite sea of non-living substance. They are in reality specks of relative death in an infinite ocean of life. He sees that the light which is in man is eternal, as all life is eternal. That the soul of man is immortal as God is. That the universe is so built and ordered that without any pre-adventure, all things work together for the good of all. That the foundation principle of the world is what we call love. And that the happiness of every individual is in the long run guaranteed. Especially does he obtain such a conception of the whole, capitalizes whole, or at least an immense whole, as dwarfs all conception, imagination, speculation, springing from and belonging to ordinary self-consciousness. And what he's pointing to at the end there is that there's, beyond like an intellectual understanding of this everything, there's the experience of that directly. And it's an interesting lead. So yeah, you can experientially feel and look around, and if you can see less through these like social and cultural lenses at some point, I think it would be a fun experiment at some point tonight to step away from everything for a second into the quiet void to our left, and maybe ponder the cosmic recycling program a bit, and see how someone could arrive at such a view and even live through such a lens. And it's interesting because arriving at this perspective of oneness, it's never been so concrete. You know, it was 100 years ago. Edwin Hubble of the Hubble telescope fame, he was the first guy to recognize galaxies. It's like, those are galaxies, we see them. The theory of the Big Bang is only 75 years old. So this sort of like concrete scientific route to a feeling of oneness is it's very new. It wasn't available 100 years ago. So I think it's a gift in a way that it makes it a little easier for us to arrive at such a place. So shifting gears a little bit, I'm just going to drop a couple numbers on you guys. So we do a little visualization exercise, and then I'll just kind of close it out. So fun numbers. We're in the Milky Way galaxy. We have a sun that we orbit around. Sun's a star. There are between 100 and 400 billion stars in our Milky Way galaxy. Just in our one galaxy, there are 100 to 400 billion stars. And
how many is that? Like, can we picture that?
I don't think it's possible.
More grains in the sand on the Earth?
Way more. No. The galaxy. There's more stars. There's way more stars in the universe than grains of sand.
Money that Donald Trump has.
He has no.
How many jelly beans can you eat?
How many jelly beans you can fit in your mouth?
Yeah. And then, okay, so if there's 100 to 400 billion stars in each galaxy, the observable universe that we've thus far observed is estimated to be 100 to was estimated to be about 100 billion galaxies of this many stars in each one. But now people are like, oh no, it actually seems more like 2 to 20 trillion galaxies.
What the fuck?
With billions of stars. We're very small.
That is the reaction to it.
Yeah, 2 trillion of hundreds of billions. So it's very interesting. So these numbers are impossible to comprehend, but we're going for the experiential feeling here of feeling like smaller than like Horton. Everyone knows Horton Hears a Who. They're on a dust speck talking to an elephant. Like we're way smaller than the Who's down in Whoville. It's pretty wild. Yeah. Okay, so have you guys ever seen one of those like universe zoom out videos? You start here and you like float out over the Earth, and it just keeps going, and by planets and other stars and other galaxies, and you get this whole view, and they come back in. I read a book. I read Neil deGrasse Tyson's book, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry, 3 years ago while I was hiking the Annapurna Circuit in Nepal, and everything. Time was slow, and I had a lot of time to just veg on this and stuff, and I ended up coming out of it with this little practice of I'd wake up in the morning and I'd like drop into like a little like morning prayer position and try to like float my consciousness or my imagination out the back of my head and do the universe zoom out video, and like a minute or two, and then get on with my day. And I've done it like 100 or so times, and it's really like brought this more expansive feeling that maybe you have right now into my life, in my everyday experience. Like it could be Tuesday at 10:30 at the coffee shop, and I'm working on web design, and I still have this like little tether to how vast things are. It's nice. It puts things in perspective. So I figured I'd just run you guys through a little universe zoom out thing. That'd be fun. So if everyone wants to, you don't have to drop into the prayer position or anything. Everyone's very comfortable. Just go ahead and close your eyes, and I'll just try and walk you through it. So maybe float your. Try to like. I try to picture this, like really like imagine it visually in my mind, and it's really hard for me to do. And I like force myself to kind of get a picture before I move to the next level usually, which takes me a little bit of time. But we'll just kind of step through it and go for that. Try to see in your mind's eye, maybe like 5 feet above your head, like where you're at right now. See there's people around you, the ground on which you sit or stand, and try to really look down at where you're at. Feel that, see that. And then let's step it up like a mile above us or something. You're in a forest. You're looking down on these trees, the greenery. We probably can't see ourselves anymore already. It's definitely a beautiful place to be. And now let's step it up like above the state of Washington. We're in the green, in the trees, like really try to see it, like we're next to the Cascades. There's maybe you're getting a Google Maps view. There's the desert out to the east of Washington there. And then we'll step it back over the whole continent. Google Maps view is very helpful for my pictorial mind. You can imagine the whole United States and try to see the point you're at right now, like really tether, like pin yourself there. And let's go further. Let's put the whole Earth in view. Space is enveloping us. We're on a little pale blue dot. It's green and blue. It's covered in life. What a gift. And see where you're at. Drop a pin there. All right, let's move it back out. Past the moon. If you've seen the Earthrise image, you can kind of, the Earth's like a little, like a, I don't know, small pizza size in the sky or something. And you got the moon there, and we're much further away. There's a lot more empty space, and you can step that back. Let's imagine it from Jupiter. That's where the pale blue dot image was taken from, where Carl Sagan said that we are on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, and that's what it looks like from there. It just the lightest little in the void. And let's step it back to another star, maybe the closest star. Now our sun is like a little dot, a little glowing dot far away. Imagine that. And maybe like an arm of our Milky Way. There are billions of stars in this arm. We're getting really far away from home. Picture that arm. Go whole Milky Way, all turning. 100 to 400 billion stars spinning around a black hole. Somewhere in that around a little something in that whole mix. And then step it out, maybe you can see hundreds or thousands of galaxies now, all twirling like that Milky Way. Think about where you are in relation to all of that. And then we'll just try to go as wide as we can. There's apparently 2 trillion to 20 trillion galaxies in our observable universe now, so I don't know how to picture that, but there's a lot of these spinning things going on, more than you can comprehend. Wow. And then you can just step it all the way back in. Let's just kind of maybe do a little zoom from infinity down to hundreds of galaxies and into maybe over the Milky Way galaxy now. It's spinning around our black hole, hundreds of billions of stars drop into the arm of it. Many stars around. We're somewhere in this little cluster. Come in maybe to the star next to our star. You can see the sun way out there in the void, just a little glint. And you zoom way up to that star. There's these little things floating around it. Maybe you're at Jupiter. You can see Earth as a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. A step closer, let's look at it from the moon. There it is, the blue-green, the life covering our little rock, our home. Bring it in, let's bring it over the continent, really coming back. You can catch the edges of space. It's a beautiful thing. Over the state of Washington. The desert, the forest. Maybe a mile overhead, you're dropping into the trees. It's getting so specific again. 5 feet over your head again, maybe. See the people around you. You're here. You're now. And you can drop back into your noggin and open your eyes. Woo. All right, so I gotta wrap it up, and there's one really important point I wanted to hit, and I see the evolution of a person and of all human, like a human life, and the evolution of our society in sort of 3 steps, and they parallel each other. And I think to take on the personal level, you can see a wide-eyed, wonder-filled child, unrepressed, raw experience of glimmering reality, running around amok, sticking their finger in wall sockets, and then because there's wall sockets and survival and everything, your brain sort of walls off that function and allows you to focus, and you put blinders on and you become capable. You can do things, you can learn, you can throw festivals and do awesome things at them, as so many of you are, and you become an adult. And so we're functional in the world now, but we've sort of we've made an exchange for our ability to survive and our ability to thrive in reality. We've lost the wide-eyed, wonder-filled child, and I think the third step here is to become wide-eyed and wonder-filled, and yet still a capable adult. I think that sort of cosmic consciousness and remembering your place in space is a way to open yourself up beyond that take the blinders off a bit, and we've learned to drive these things. Where literally driving is a good example. Like, you needed to not, like, you couldn't have child consciousness while you were operating a car, and then you learned, you figured out, and you internalized everything, and now you can drive a vehicle and think about whatever you want, and we can open up our minds again, and open up our sense of wonder, because we've learned and integrated all these things throughout growing up into ourselves. We've embodied them, and they can open up your mind to whatever else is shiny and beautiful around you. And it's on a personal level, following those same 1, 2, 3 steps. I think that on a societal level, over probably a long time, longer than we're going to be around, maybe not, but probably. I feel like probably. You could say many thousands of years ago we were primitive, wonder-filled, in this mysterious world where we didn't know anything, and the stars were out at night, and anything could come kill you, and it was just mystery and awe and terror, sort of, and it was beautiful, and you fight it back with sticks. And now we're sort of a little disconnected, and we live in boxes, and we've gained the function. We have all this technology. We can do all these things, but I think society will maybe eventually evolve, like on the personal level, into a sort of awe-inspired, capable state where we can survive on one level, but we can also thrive. So that's what I'm going for. Step 3. And thank you guys. I made these sweet bucket stickers. I think the Earth is a symbol of our place in space, and if anyone wants one, I'm just want to give one out. So give them out. So come take one. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Yes. 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 Yes.